Thank you very much, Sue. So Sue says, my name is Gail. I head up social media intelligence at Kantar Media. And today I really wanted to talk to you about AI in the context of social media analysis. Machine learning and artificial intelligence are almost always something that is talked about in the field of social media analysis, because social media is, of course, a big data source, so big volumes of conversations, and many believe that the only way to extract meaning and insights from this data source is actually to use AI. But today, much like Tom and Stephen, I want to make the case for the role of humans in social media analysis. Now, I recently read a statistic when I was researching this presentation, which suggests that 35% of current UK employment is at risk of being replaced by a robot or similar technology by 2030, which is actually quite a frightening statistic. And I think all of us in the field of market research or consumer research are thinking that our jobs one day may be performed by machines. So is that actually true? And what can machines actually do in the context of social media research? So social media conversations clearly offer a lot of possibility as a source of consumer insight. If you've ever been on a NewMR webinar, you might have heard me talk about how social media can be leveraged to deliver consumer insights. I'm not going to go through that today. But consumer research at scale and in real time is obviously a very attractive proposition for many marketers. Having so much data at hand is a really exciting prospect. The main issue is that you need to know what to do with it and what insights to derive from it. I feel, though, that the more technology is available, the greater the misconception becomes around what tools or machines can deliver. There's many tools out there which are promising to deliver insights. But from my perspective, at least, I believe that insight deriving machines do not exist yet, and I personally think that and I doubt they ever will. And the reason for that is because insight inherently is something that is seldom derived through machines. There's obviously many arguments as to what insight actually means. From my perspective, insight is a fresh and not yet obvious understanding of customer beliefs, values, habits, desires, motives, emotions, or needs that everyone agrees on and can become the basis for a competitive advantage. Insight is subjective in nature because it comes from the interpretation of data based on the context of culture, and machines cannot do that yet because contextual and cultural understanding is innate, it's very specific, and also it's infinitely variable. So it's hard to program that into a machine, even an intelligent machines. Knowing what the data means and what the implications are is really what matters from our analysis, and tools can display a lot of data, can display it in very attractive ways, but insights and consideration comes from the interpretation of this data. So a lot of so-called social media intelligence out there is just about the overall numbers and not what they mean. And really the people behind the conversations are forgotten and their opinions are not considered. So what is the role of AI or machines in the context of social media intelligence? I've given you a little definition here of what artificial, there are a few, but that's one that I found which I tend to like. On a basic level, machines can effectively help human researchers collect data. They can also help identify key themes using the frequency that words or expression appear in social media content. Some of the more advanced techniques can help uncover specific themes or trends in the data. But you still need humans to help machines learn how the content is structured at the outset so they can read it and learn that language. And more importantly, you also need humans to dig underneath these themes to interpret what they mean for the people commissioning the research. So you need a human interpretation to form considerations around how to take actions in the real world from what you've actually learned. And that's why machines as humans are both needed to derive actionable social media intelligence. There are two additional ways that machines and humans can work together to make sense of social media content. Machine learning, including natural language processing, and human-led keyword-based categorizations. The first one that I've already described identifies patterns in the content automatically, while the other consists in using qualitative analysis done by humans at scale. So, would there ever be a world without humans in the context of social media analysis and perhaps in the context of research more broadly? And what would it look like? Controversially, I'm going to say that it's hard to imagine because a lot of time what is passed as media or as social media intelligence, by which I mean the consumer and business insights derived from the analysis of social media channels to be used in business strategy and answer business questions, is actually just data, it's not insights. Social media, which is arguably one of the most personal ways of communicating and in the present time, would be left to machines, and the people behind the conversations, their attitudes, their behaviors would be lost in the mass. And social media intelligence would be reduced to trend charts with no or limited context and understanding. So in my opinion, it would remove the actionability of social media research and would lack the specificity and interpretations that humans can add. Any keen chess players would be aware of how AI impacted the world of chess in 1997 when IBM's Deep Blue computer beat Garry Kasparov over 6 games. Garry Kasparov actually did a TED presentation about that, and he talked about the result, and he questioned the future of his game because it actually had transformed the game into a very functional process, and which was driven by fast hardware and smart algorithms. But he also realized, like myself and like Tom and Stephen, that something was missing, that the human component was missing, and that what makes the chess game such a fascinating game is actually the ability to look at another human being and understand their feelings, their behaviors, and their intention, and use that to inform your strategy in the game. And I feel that it's very much the same in terms of social media intelligence. You're actually probably going to feel that I'm going to repeat what Tom said in his conclusion, but actually we are very much on the same page. Earlier, I talked about the role of artificial intelligence in developing social media insight, but I would actually say that we're in an age of intelligence amplification, which is what Tom called augmented human intelligence, which is very much the same concept where it's using information technology to its best use to augment human intelligence, but not just to augment human intelligence. It's actually to release some of the creativity and some of the human processes which machines are not yet capable to produce. So automated analysis in context is really useful to release some of the more mundane processes that are involved in the analysis of this content, and releases the time for humans to interpret interpret what these conversations mean. I would urge you to actually read an article which was published in The Guardian last year, which was entitled Machine Learning, Why We Should Not Be Slave to the Algorithm. In this article, John Norton, who published it, argues that while machine learning is a wonderful thing, it's also potentially biased. And he actually quoted a recent study which was performed by AI researchers at Princeton University and the University of Bath, which revealed that actually in everyday speech there's embedded biases which most of us are unaware, which means that actually by using artificial intelligence to decode conversation, you're potentially also introducing a bias yourself. So basically that again makes the case for having more human interaction with it. I will finish by quoting Paul Franton, who actually is the CEO of Havas Media. He's a competitor of ours, but I don't mind quoting it because he actually said that it's emotional and not artificial intelligence, which is the key to success now. And I think that he actually makes infinite sense. He was actually talking about social media communications here, but I would argue that what he said was also true of social media intelligence. That's all I've got for you today, but the message is very much the same as my colleagues from Insight earlier, which is that essentially we are in an age of amplification where machines and humans must work together. Thank you.